Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of Chasing Sound Live. It's been a little while, but today we have a good one because I am joined by my friend over there in Chicago, Mr. Simon Allaway. We did a full test before this, and we'll see how it goes video wise. Let me bring Simon on here. How's it going, Simon?
Good. How about you? How's things with you?
I'm doing well, doing well. Kind of like a fun weekend over here. You know, it's kind of dreary, but getting a lot of guitar time in. Had a nice day off yesterday, which was helpful.
Excellent.
But yeah, if folks don't know who Simon is, we did a really fun live stream in the past where he was talking about setting up your guitar and things that you might want to look for. As you can see, he's in front of the workbench today. So we're going to attempt. Simon's going to attempt at least. I'm going to just watch in awe. He's going to attempt to wind a pickup live here. I mean, he's done it many a time now. What pickups have you wound so far that people might be interested in hearing about?
All kinds. I mean, my favorites so far are tele pickups because they're very easy to do.
Sure.
Single coils. Um, I did. In fact, the very first one I ever did is on this guy. This is actually a spaced for a Floyd because the string spacing is ever so slightly different, much wider.
Yeah.
Or rather, a Floyd is spaced for a Strat, and a Les Paul is far narrower. So that was the first one I ever wound right there. These two go together slightly underwound as paths go, because that's that's really what it stemmed from for me was this is the oldest guitar I have that I made. I started this one back in 1986, so I understand how to produce the wooden parts are easy enough. It's routing and sanding, and I
Sure.
know how to do fret jobs. I can do the electronics, but I never really quite understood precisely how the pickups worked. So that was kind of a next step for me, was how on earth do we do that? What makes a difference? Because as with a lot of things in the guitar world, we're surrounded by a lot of mythology,
Yeah.
which is really irritating because everyone's like, oh, well, yes, you're supposed to have this, or it's got to be like this. It has to be this wire. It has to be this magnet. It has to be done in a certain way. And the humidity has to be like this. And, you have to be thinking about certain things while you're doing other things. And, I've played vintage guitars over the years and they all sound great, but I've also played modern guitars that also sound fantastic. So I'm always the first one to want to find out why on earth something is the way it is, and the only way I can do that is to take it apart and try and build one.
Yeah.
So because fundamentally at the end of the day, pickups are just some wire and some magnets. It's ancient science. It's this Faraday and Maxwell science from hundreds of years ago. There's nothing. This is Tesla. This is Edison. It's all. Well, actually, Edison didn't like any of that, but it's lovely. It's beautifully primitive. That's why I love it so much.
If you were like Eric Johnson or Steve Vai, they would have you believe that every pole piece really matters. There's a little bit of magic in every single one, and
Right.
at 3:45 every day you'll get your best tone.
Exactly. Well, it depends on whether it's daylight savings time.
Ah, right. I forgot. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And this is why you failed, Brian.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot of fails to talk about today. Well, at least one big one. I guess we'll get to it. So, what we're going to try to do is, Simon will get into a little bit of this whole winding machine and how cool it is that he actually built his own. We're going to do a live wind, and kind of in between, I have a couple of things that I wanted to talk about and get maybe Simon's take on too. I wanted to talk about a little bit of gear, some courses that I'm going over, some books that I've been into, and of course, just because it's timely, we're going to talk about this 250 guitarists from Rolling Stone list because it's just a dumpster fire of a list, and we need to talk about it because that's what you need on the internet is two more guys talking about it. So, um, well, I'm gonna, without further ado here, I'm gonna let you talk about the machine, I know you have like a desk cam over there too, so I'm going to switch over to you and
Sure.
let you have at it. Really.
Well, all right. Well, let me talk then about what's the principles here. So this here you should be able to see is the basic raw pickup in that it's two pieces of fiber board. It's really sort of resin impregnated fiber, and these are steel slugs. I've already pressed these together just with my drill press and magnetized them, so it will stick to a. So in fact, you can see from this shows you the polarity. These are south up
Sure.
ones.
I got a quick question for you. For
Sure.
anyone that wants to try to start to get into this, even if they pick up their own stuff. I mean, I know you're building your own here, but where would someone like? Where are you going for some of these materials, like the pole pieces, the pickup, body here itself?
All kinds of different places. By far the easiest one, Stuart McDonald will sell you they call it flat work. All this stuff here, and they'll sell you slugs. You can go. There's a cool place. Mojo Tone will do it. Advanced Amplified Parts will do it. There's even a cool place in Belgium called Nebula. They've got all kinds of different sized things. Yeah, because the slugs have different sizes and shapes. Some of them will be cast. Some of them will be just literally sawn off a piece of steel, a rod rather. And of course, the wire, it can get very exotic. In that, again, this is where the sort of the BS comes into it, because you have to think about the gauge. Like this is a tele neck pickup. It's 43 gauge traditionally, because it's thinner than the 42 gauge that you might use for a Strat pickup, or pretty much every other pickup on the planet uses 42. But because the tele pickup is actually quite narrow, Leo in his wisdom decided to squeeze in a bit more with using 43. But you can see the color of it. It's sort of pleasant pinky orange.
Yeah.
It's colored that way because it's copper and it's coated with an enamel to insulate it. So because you really don't have room to cover it and say that's fabric covered wire, which is probably double the dimension of the actual core of it. So this is an incredibly thin, you could argue, a painted on coating. But there's plastic coatings, there's enamel coatings, and they say that all affects tone. I think that's a complete lie. But
who's they?
I wish I did, because I'd go over and yell at them a little bit. Well, actually, they tends to be the people trying to sell you extremely expensive hand-wound pickups.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So the principle here is we want to get some of this onto this bobbin. So what I've done to kind of start it off is I've soldered one end of the wire to this eyelet here. And then essentially we need to wind it on. So let me now segue neatly to a tour of the machine itself. And that's this guy here, which is really all about this motor up at the top, which spins. I will be literally taping the pickup bobbin. Let me move some light here. I will be taping it to this here. Hang on, let me rest the camera right there. There we go. There's this sensor here and a magnet on the back. So you'll see when I spin it around, it'll blink. And that's able to count. This is just a rest so that I can control where the wire is going. And this is my, let's call it a bespoke control system. Nice. So I get to decide how many windings it's going to use. So I can go up and down, because as I'm counting with the sensor up here, that means I get to stop it automatically, so it doesn't just run forever. So for instance, if I hit start here, you'll see the motor start spinning, and it's counting here. So I can start, stop, and reset as well. This is all based on, there's a power supply that I've built in there, which it's taking like 24 volts, gives me 12 volts that goes to this motor controller. And then, let me yoink it up gently. You can see there's a red light in there. That's the actual microcontroller that's doing the counting. Now, allow me to fix this camera again, and I'll do a brief thing about the software.
Yeah.
Let me just put that. Ooh, very elegant. There we go. Okay, so that's fixed now. Let me switch to. In fact, let me give you one of the main reasons why. This is why I built my own, because look how much a pickup winding machine costs.
Jeez.
I mean, they're nice, but they're not doing anything that mine doesn't. You know, they're all counting and stopping fundamentally.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's why I did it. But the way it's constructed, this is essentially the power supply. So I take AC in one end, make it into DC here, and then here's a 12 volt regulator and here's a 5 volt regulator. So 12 volt to drive the motor, 5 volts to drive the Arduino itself. And the cool thing is that this microcontroller lets you not only sense things on the pins, but also essentially operate it like a switch, multifaceted switch.
Maybe you'll show us, but how did you get into writing the software that allows it to count, or is there something that just kind of comes pre? Oh, there it is.
There it is.
Nice.
Essentially, it's this. It's a very, very, very simple programming language where I've got I'm essentially naming the pins that exist on the Arduino controller. So, and these pins have things connected to them. So, for instance, I've got these are ones that are named for the buttons. I'm storing in programming, we call it state. So things like should be running, should redraw, directional things, is auto stop set, what is my default winding count, those kinds of things. And then fundamentally, it's actually written like a game. It's written like a video game, in that there's this constant loop. This little function gets called all the time. So every time this indeed is called, I'm checking all kinds of states. So I'm seeing, has somebody pushed a button? And then I essentially, if I'm in run mode, I'm doing certain things. I'm checking to see if somebody's pushed the start stop button. I then update the rev count. I then check whether I should be running at all, and then I'll start the motor or stop the motor. Doing all the screen updates, because fundamentally there's a little language for talking to that LCD display like this. I'm literally I'm pointing to different parts of that little screen and writing numbers to it. And here's some crude looping for doing counts, and so it's fundamentally it's actually dead simple. The code, you can see most of it is running the display.
How long do you think it took you to write this?
A couple of hours.
Wow. Okay.
But so it's really no big deal. The most time consuming part was all the physical stuff, doing the actual the wiring of the device, and making this extremely attractive control surface.
I mean, I think it looks great. It's so funny you say that, because I'm sure this is not the way it happens for like a huge manufacturer like a Fender or a Gibson, but I've seen a ton of videos from even the Fender factory where you have some of these custom shop guitars where they are still doing it this way by hand. And, of course they are, right? I mean, it makes sense. If you're going to buy a custom shop guitar and you want something particular, they're still doing it this way. So,
oh yeah, certainly.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool that you can kind of make one of these on your own, and kind of, we've talked about it on the last time we live streamed, how great you can make a custom guitar for yourself, including the body, winding your own pickups, getting your own tuning pegs, and making all these modifications for well under the couple of $1,000s that usually cost to get a real custom guitar here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's it's the foundation of kind of my hobby is my ability to kind of short circuit some of the stuff in the industry that because I know that I can assemble a guitar and make the damn thing play well. So I've got no problem whatsoever with buying a sort of $400 Squire and then spending a couple of hours making it play well, and perhaps spending $50 on I can buy pickup parts for sort of tens or twenties of dollars. I'm struggling here with this piece of tape. This is double-sided tape that I use to stick it to my my bobbin, and it won't come off. Come on. But yeah, you know me, Brian, in the past, and others on the Discord will know that I'm always going on about how ridiculous modern, certainly custom guitar prices have got.
Oh yeah, it's pretty wild.
Certainly over the last 20 years, and especially so since COVID. It's an absolute insanity.
I've been lucky enough to last time I was out in Chicago to visit your place and be able to try a lot of those guitars, and they played great and sounded great. So I mean, you can't knock that. Once you really try this stuff, and people can say, yeah, I made my own guitar, sure. And I'm sure not all these kit guitars are great, but the stuff that you built has been excellent. So,
right. Well, thank you very much. What I'm doing here is getting it lined up on the actual winding machine. So it's now stuck there. I just want to make sure the little extra piece of wire I've got here does not get wound into the windings. So I'm just going to trim that.
Yeah, anything like folks would want to look out for, like first time they're doing it. Like I'm sure hopefully not, but I'm sure there's been some horror stories, right? When you first got this going, like what mistakes did you make or along the way?
Right. Yeah. I've still yet to really finesse this bit of attaching a bobbin in a particularly perfect way to the winding machine. I mean, you can see hopefully you can see. Yeah, you can see these lines. I literally I ran the machine and with a Sharpie as it was spinning around, just held it up here. So I got these perfectly concentric circles. That was critical. And also a dead straight line going through. So I could, as I'm offering it up, I can see that this screw hole here lines up there. And I can also see it lines up on the other side, and it's about the same distance. But there's a little off here. But it turns out that actually doesn't matter all that much. So what I'm doing now is, you probably can't see the wire, but what I'm actually doing is turning this manually, and the wire is coming off the top here and coming out towards my thumb.
Yeah, we can see it actually a little bit.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Awesome.
It's picking it up nice.
And I want to make sure that, that's no good. Let's go back again, do it again. Here we go. So I need to make sure that I don't offer up the wire so that it goes underneath this edge of the pickup. And I've got these guards, which are really just actually drill stop guards. And I just need to move this one a little bit. So I'm going to use this little Allen key just to slide it a little bit, like literally 1/10 of a millimeter or something. There we go. So that's probably about, and I'm totally winding by hand now. So I've got about 4 windings on it, and I can see that it's just kind of near the edge. So that's good. So now I'm going to go to the other side and find the extent on the other side. Let's make sure I've got some slack here. So it's about there.
How do you know where to, build up the winds and do you want to make it obviously as even as possible, or do you favor a side, or?
That's somewhere where I want to experiment more. I mean, the automatic machines that Gibson would use, they will do it exceptionally evenly because it's machine controlled. Not necessarily computer controlled or anything, but certainly machine controlled. Fender, and especially the custom shop folks that you see doing it, they're doing it entirely by hand with immense amounts of skill over decades.
Sure.
But fundamentally, and again, this is where some of the BS comes in. They say, I'm actually putting the roll of wire on the floor because that's by far the best place to have it unwind off the top of the bobbin. There's mythology surrounding scatter wound pickups.
Okay.
Which I think I don't see any good way of testing that. I think that's bullshit myself, to use a technical term.
Yeah.
Okay, so I almost got the extent here. So wind, just move that back in there. Okay, that should do it. All right, we are essentially ready to go.
Cool.
I don't know if you can see from. You can see there's a sort of mild buildup of wire on this side and a little bit on this side. So but that's only 13 windings. What I can do is move the camera so it'll show it while I wind it.
How many windings are you aiming for then? When the pickup will be done.
I'm going for about 8,500.
Okay.
And this all comes from. You can do a calculation. Let me bring up some. Oh, I need to move that back. Hold on. There's a very useful online winding calculator. And I'm going to show you image grabs from that. Because you're aiming for, this is for a neck pickup on a telly. A vintage spec one would have been, a 50 spec with 43 gauge wire would have a DC resistance, literally, of about 7.7K. So if this is what you desire, then you can type all those numbers in and hit go, and it'll tell you under which circumstances whether it's loose scatter, where you'll be able to fit about 8,000 on. If you do it a little bit tighter, 8251. If you're doing it tight machine, as in you've got a very, very well defined machine, then you can probably fit more windings on. And this will also tell you from the dimensions that you give it of the bobbin whether it's actually going to physically fit onto it. So the DC resistance is just one indication of how the pickup might sound, because ultimately it comes down to that sort of ancient centuries-old science I was talking about. This is which we're using that principle of a moving magnetic field inducing a current in a wire. And this was literally discovered by somebody moving bits of metal near a wire and saw the current jump on a meter and went, "Whoa, what's that?" And that was Mr. Faraday, and he quite literally ended up inventing this notion of induction and coils, and we're still using it obviously to this day. And it's big in guitar because transformers work exactly that way. The AC current that comes out of our house walls works precisely that way. Converting a rotation from a turbine, whether it's in a nuclear power plant or a hydroelectric power plant, it's still a circular motion from water or steam going, rotating magnets inside coils to give us current, So this is magically primitive universe stuff. So there's all these interactions with how wide the magnetic field is. In our world, that's governed by this physical size of the pickup. So this is why humbuckers, in large part, sound the way they do, because we've got two coils taking up a fair old amount of space. And why tele neck pickups sound the way they do, because they're very, very thin, but quite tall in comparison to, say, a humbucker. There's all these dimensions. So it all interacts, and that's kind of the fun part.
No, this is cool, and there's a little bit of charm to that, right? That like we're still using this. I mean, not that we change it up, but I mean, we're still using this from so long ago for our guitars, and that's wonderful.
Exactly.
Cool.
All right. So we're at the point where I can hit the go button and it'll start winding. So yeah, for those listening, you will hear some motor noise, but Brian and I will probably start yakking, and you'll see
sure.
me. I'll kick it off, and you'll see me sort of doing this backwards and forwards. Actually, you can't see that. Let me move the camera just a tiny bit. If it'll pivot. No, I unlocked the wrong one. I do apologize. Just make it go back just a little bit like that.
Nice. Yeah, that looks good.
Okay, so the wire is obviously coming down. It's going to come through my thumb and forefinger, and I will keep tension on it, and I'll be moving it backwards and forwards like this. And you'll probably just see this sort of flashing brightness a lot, and that's just the reflections off the wire. And I'll be watching the number on here, and every 1,000 or so, I'm just going to stop it and look and see how evenly it's building up. And I'll try not to pull so hard that it snaps, but I don't want it loose. That's a bit of a balance. I've only actually broken wire once in this, but of all the pieces of wire that I chose to do this, 43 is by far the weakest.
I think we've jinxed ourselves sufficiently, but we'll see
Right.
what happens.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna hit the go button.
All right.
So run. I'm kind of deliberately holding it in the middle to start off with, make life a little bit easier for myself. Okay. Start.
I mean, that's very cool.
So there you go. You can see it's starting to build up already.
Yeah.
And you can see this is going to be fine. I just need to keep going.
Nice. Yeah, it looks very cool. Well, I guess, yeah, like you said, while it's winding, maybe I'll bring it back to our double screen here. Oh, yeah, I still can see both. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, something I've been getting into lately was this string theories book. Simon, are you familiar with Adam Levy?
Adam Neely, yes.
Oh, no, not Adam Neely. He's great, too, but this is Adam Levy.
Oh, Adam Levy, no.
Okay, yeah, well, I mean, Adam Levy, Adam Neely I love, too. His bass playing is fantastic. I love his channel. But Adam Levy, great guitar teacher and player on the internet. He just came out. I'll actually bring it up here on the screen share. He actually just came out with this string theories book, which I picked up on Amazon. I think it's only, I don't know, maybe $10 or so. Already an Amazon bestseller. It's very cool. I got it for the Kindle. Let me show you the guys that are doing it. So yeah, here's Adam Levy and Ethan Sherman. I wasn't really familiar with Ethan Sherman yet, but Adam Levy, he's had this series on YouTube, especially during the pandemic, for like guitar tips, where he would go over different guitar tips that he would teach his students. Someone we're going to speak about in a little while, actually, Julian Lage. Let's see if it'll come up here. He wrote this about the book. He goes, "String Theories is a brilliant and soulful exploration of the world of guitar." And then he talks about, all the different things that come up in the book, practicing, cultivating your own voice. The book is really cool because it has a bunch of different sections, like a tips section, a challenges section, and then more of like almost like an essays section. But the tips and the challenges have these cool actionable items at the end of every like mini chapter. So it's like a bunch of little things you could work on and kind of get into your practice regimen, or some things to think about. And then they talk about what should you do for today, what should you do this month, and what should you do this year based on the concept. And it's really cool. I would recommend it. I'll actually I will put a link to the book in the chat if anyone wants to check it out. But it's great. It's an excellent book that I would recommend to pretty much everybody.
Especially for that price, that sounds extremely good value.
Yeah, I mean even the paperback version's only $22. So super duper worth it. Adam Levy, great guitar teacher. I would definitely check that out. And then yeah, let's see how you moving along there on the wines. Oh wow, almost up to 2,000 already. Yeah.
Yep, up to 2,000. I'm just turning up the volume of my headphones because I can't quite hear everything you're saying.
I mean, that might be for the best too, but
yeah, well, no comment there.
So what are we looking at here now that it's at about 2,000? From what I can see from your camera here, I mean, it looks pretty even. You know.
Yeah. Yep. It's getting there.
Armchair quarterback over here. It looks good.
This is where it starts to look quite pretty because who doesn't like the look of copper, right?
Oh yeah, sure. That's cool.
So yeah, I mean, now it's really just a case of keep going.
So and could you explain to people, like, you know, when people you hear it a lot, people talk about pickups that are overwound, underwound, you know, for like certain effects. Like, what is the benefit of that? Like, what do you know, what's the theory behind that?
Well, in essence, you're creating, well, obviously you're putting more or less windings onto the bobbin, and that changes the interaction between the resistance to current that's inherent in the wire and how the inductance can work. And what that actually comes down to is frequency response of the pickup and loudness. So for instance, a classic 50s style Gibson PAF pickup will have, say, 8,000 ohms or 8K ohms resistance, whereas, and that has its own sound, obviously. One could use that as a baseline, say, and say that's a normal pickup. Whereas in the 70s, it was massively popular to try and, because remember, in the 70s, we're in an age where we didn't have high gain amps yet. That was really only just starting to happen. So people wanted to push the front end of a tube amp, and you could go the route of using a fuzz pedal or a treble booster, but equally you could just try and get louder pickups. And that's where the likes of DiMarzio and Seymour Duncan came in. They would get a standard humbucker sized set of bobbins, and they'd use like 43 gauge wire like I'm using here to squeeze more wires on. And then you'd end up with almost double the DC resistance. You'd get a very much louder, fatter sounding humbucker. But the downside to it is you'd lose a bit of high end.
Okay.
Because nothing's ever perfect, right? So you got to lose something somewhere because physics, you know. So the classic Seymour Duncan JB humbucker, those measure up like 16K. They're insane.
Wow.
But they are, I mean, they'll perfectly drive a Fender amp or the front end of a Marshall very, very simply. Because they are incredibly loud, but they are very fat too, and they don't have that classic PAF sort of high mid squeaky squawky thing that you get with a standard PAF. We're approaching 4,000 now, still looking good.
Have you tried anything like that, like, you know, overwinding pickups, underwinding pickups?
Oh yeah,
yourself.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, the ones I did for let me think. Yeah, the ones I did for that Koa thing with the Floyd Rose, those are underwound about 10%. And the Firebird ones I did are a little overwound, probably 5%.
Okay.
The underwound ones I did certainly do sound thinner, which I like. I wanted that a little more. I didn't just want a kind of super strat, fat sounding thing. I wanted something different. Because I do love the sound of a telly, but I do love humbucking. So I ended up falling in love with Firebird pickups because they're just the perfect combination of the two. You get that brutal telly tone, but at the same time, there's no hum whatsoever. And I do own the sort of classic Seymour Duncan set, the JB and the SH4, I think it is, the so-called jazz pickups that are supposed to go in the neck of a sort of humbucker pair. And they sound great, but they're their thing. I guess one advantage to an overwound pickup is that because they are somewhat louder and fatter, you've got some more leeway on pickup height.
Okay.
You don't necessarily have to have them all the way up to get a good tone out of it. And the height of the pickup is essentially how much of the magnetic field is your string flapping about in. That's important too.
Sure.
For instance, I find telly pickups, when done to a vintage spec, they sound best when the pickup is as close as possible to the strings. Certainly in the bridge, and that really depends on your picking technique, because that won't necessarily work for everybody. Whereas humbuckers, again, if they're loud like a overwound, you get to have them a little bit lower, so you get a lot of control over the intensity of your signal. And and especially with humbuckers, if you want a specific in-betweeny pickup sound with both of them on, their relative volumes are very important. And you can control that a lot with height. That's the trouble. There's so many variables that affect the tone.
You actually remind me, I wanted to share something else here too that I've been working on just started yesterday. This, I kind of talked about it in the Discord a tiny bit, but this new Tim Lurch course that I've been really getting into. He has a bunch of stuff on TrueFire right now. But this is the one I've been working on yesterday, called Solo Jazz Pathways, and it's the blues version of it. And it's just been a lot of fun. First of all, he does it on this beautiful telly that's, he talks about the telly at the end of the course, but fingerboard and the body and everything is just very, naturally reliced, and it just looks amazing. But yeah, the course is so cool because it's using a lot of like 1-4-5 style progressions, a lot of dominant chords, but he shows you these chord comping styles where you would use to play them behind a singer, and then he kind of does it like 3 different ways, adding things along the way. So like he might add in a couple single notes along the way. He kind of spruces the things up. But the first example of every example that he does is very approachable, I would say, for maybe like a intermediate guitarist could totally get behind this. And yeah, it's just very cool. I always find fun stuff on there. And Tim Lurch is such a great teacher. Actually, here's something I picked up from him a while back from the Guitar Vivo folks, this chord dictionary for melodic jazz guitar, which is awesome. The people at Guitar Vivo are always very nice. This guy Luke, who runs a lot of the stuff, is super cool. Has always helped me out. Great customer service. This book is all about, it's more like a chord dictionary, but it's laid out in a very interesting way, talking all about melody and different types of chords that you might want to use. And if you look at the Tim Lurch TrueFire courses, you'll see like, oh my God, the little chord fragments that he's using are so effective and fun that it's a fantastic book. And that book too is like $16.99. So
oh wow.
There's like we talk about it all the time in the Discord, but there's just such a wealth of great stuff out there right now that you can get for cheap, $20.
Exactly.
It's wild.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially in this day and age, you can find stuff from not to disparage anybody at all that teaches guitar, because they're doing God's work, but
sure.
You can now find stuff from, you might call pros or celebrities, you know, speaking personally, I subscribe to Robin Ford's teaching setup, and he's got stuff on TrueFire. Although I don't know if that's going to stick around for that long, but and you know you can get lessons from Paul Gilbert. There's lessons from Steve Vai laying around. It's just absolutely incredible. Not that they're giving away secrets. There's no magic here, but
the secret is just put in the work. I mean, that's the real secret at the end of the day. I mean, I'm a guitar teacher myself too, but I just still feel like when I was younger and there wasn't this wealth of information and I wanted to learn Metallica songs or something, yeah, sure, I could have like learned them on my own, and I did learn a lot of stuff on my own, but it never also hurt to bring the book or like an idea to my guitar teacher and say, hey, how do I approach this? Because you've been playing for longer than me and you have all these, hours under your belt. So I do feel like there's still a place for both. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if you do want to learn on your own and you want to, I don't know, spend a couple $100 a year, you can easily do that and get a huge library of great material.
Oh, absolutely.
It's wild. Yeah, I mean, I think when I think about it too, I think I'm paying around, when it goes on sale, like $100 a year for this TrueFire All Access. I find it really nice. Let's say a course like this Tim Lurch course costs $25. If I'm into 4 courses, which I'm, if you're in the Discord, you know that we like to try a lot of different things and like take bits and pieces from everything. I mean, it shows its value super duper quick. So I think hold on. I'm going to switch back to the, your solo cam over here. So we're over 8,000 here. What are we looking at now?
We're aiming for 8,700. So we're seconds away.
Okay, cool. Wow.
Okay, there's 8,500.
Nice.
I'm kind of biasing my winds down towards the bottom now because that's where we want to end up, is right down the end. And it's going to stop. There we go. My software still functions.
Cool.
All right. I mean, that's it. That's it. So what we really need to do now is I need to get a tiny little piece of tape on it so that I can cut the wire and it doesn't sort of go off like a madman.
Yeah, I guess I don't even know myself, but like what happens now, like in a regular pickup that you'd see in a regular, Fender guitar, Gibson guitar, how do they attach that last wind to the pickup and not make it go anywhere? Is it the same?
Oh yeah, yes. Fundamentally, it's the same. Let me move the camera because I need to kind of get to the side a little bit more. Okay, and just move it a smidge. There we go. Because now I have to delicately pull this off without it all falling apart. So I'm going to reach for the official Pickup Makers Guild of America bobbin removal tool, which is a flat blade screwdriver.
Oh, okay.
So, I want to pick up the bobbin off the floor because that's where the spaghetti begins. So I'm going to kind of wind that little bit back where it was. And where's the official piece of tape gone? Oh, there it is.
I mean, you could also use this for, dual purpose. You can go fishing later on too, I guess.
And you would catch perhaps a fish egg. Okay, I'm just going to cut just this end of it there. So we're done with that. So now I've got just a ton of extra wire, which is fine. And now I just need to gently yoink this off. If I pull it on the top, this whole thing can just fall apart. So I'm just relying on the fact that double-sided tape is crap, but good enough for what we want. Because it's, as you can look at that, it's fighting me. There we go. Okay.
Wow.
I'll leave that right there. So now we've got, what can you see? There we go. I just need to get this excess piece of wire now through that hole and solder it up. So I will prep for that and move the camera again.
Cool. I guess in the meantime too, yeah, I'll go back to this cam and I mean, I know we talk about this type of stuff all the time too. I haven't really talked about it on YouTube yet, but I've talked about it elsewhere on Discord and everything. I know I feel like an advertisement today, but I'm just getting in so many things that I've enjoyed lately. Here's something I enjoyed lately: the Spark Mini. It's so good. I didn't think it was going to be good because it's I don't know. It's very tiny. It's like maybe the size of 2-pack of cards or pack and a half. But
wow.
It's very good. It's very good. Has this little loop here which you can bring. Really not much. Well, let's see the side first. Not much to it, but you got the power button. I don't know how well that's looking, but the power button and the USB-C. And then on the top, you have just with the knob for input gain, headphone jack. Oh, headphone jack. This is for your music or your backing tracks, volume for that, so it's independent. And then this button here allows you to set 4 hardware presets. Simon, I think you'll get a kick out of this actually. So of course they like to sell you different things, but it's a magnetic grill, so you can kind of swap stuff out. Check this out. If you take it off, here's the speaker set system, and you have like a mini speaker over here and some sort of like a woofer over here. And I gotta imagine that this is doing a lot of the work because it sounds, like I said, pretty damn good. And the app that you connect to it, the Spark app, is very cool. Has a lot of good presets. You can search up presets for any guitarist you like.
Wow.
I checked out the Jimi Hendrix pack, to the dismay of many of our people here.
Totally
actually,
overrated, yeah.
As much as you that's an actually cool thing. It's the right now. It's a add-on pack, but you can play songs, and they will automatically route you through the presets as the song goes on. It'll be like your pedal switcher for you.
Oh my tech!
It's a lot of fun. And then look at the back here. The back is like this rubberized. I can't even explain it, but this is how it looks. And if you actually lay the Spark down, you actually, of course, because adding it to a surface, you get a little bit of extra bass in your sound. Paul Gilbert just did a pack for them too, free. You can just download that for free.
Wow!
And it sounds awesome. I listen. I have my room right here. If I don't want to be at my desk and I just want to play electric guitar in bed and I want to be lazy, I want to play electric guitar and just kind of jam out. It's getting cold over here. You don't always want to get out of a cozy situation. This has been awesome. I think it was like $100 maybe.
Oh, wow.
So that's my advertisement for that.
So it's essentially a probably economical little DSP based system, and it's got sounds like a really well designed but really small resonant speaker.
The speaker is great. Yeah.
From what you showed me there, it looks like it reminds me of the iMac speakers.
Yeah. Yeah, very similar kind of concept. And the app too has backing tracks. You can play along to YouTube within the app. It has a tuner, and it connects to it very well. And then once you find like a couple hardware presets that you like, they just kind of flash onto the memory of the amp. And even if you're not using the app, you can kind of take it wherever you like. So very cool. It's a lot of fun. So this is cool. Little soldering action going on over here.
So yes, what I was doing while you were trying to sell your Spark was winding the piece of wire that came off the top here back through the eyelet, and I'm kind of leaving it on here because for this to work, I don't know if you can see it bubbling there. That's the enamel burning off the wire because we actually want it to, make a good connection. Because I did that with the initial piece of wire. So this is basically, let me trim off that last piece of wire.
I guess the question too is, if people want to write you for pickups, can they write you for custom pickups? Is the Simon Allaway pickup shop open for business?
Yeah, you won't like my prices though.
Oh wow, jeez.
Well, I don't want to violate my rule of changing a hobby into work.
For sure.
So the short answer is no. I don't make them for anybody else. But then say, make me an offer for this and it's yours. I mean, this is done now as far as the winding goes.
Yeah.
What the next step is because this is 8,500 windings of copper. This is incredibly fragile. What I would normally do is now get some of this fabric tape, this is actually traditionally what goes around humbuckers.
Okay.
I don't know if you can see this kind of the texture of it.
Yeah, I think because the Charvel I have, you can kind of see that because it's so open to everybody. You can see the tape that goes around it too.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
used to that. That's cool. So now, so you're gonna tape this or no?
No, I'm going to pot it in wax.
Okay. Yeah, that was my next
Which would
question.
normally be, yeah, I've got a crock pot actually that I use for that. Let me show you some of the. This is an old custom shop Fender pickup. So you can see how they potted it, but they didn't tape it or anything, and it's an absolute mess.
Oh wow. Do you have to do the wax potting really?
You don't have to, but I think it's insane to not do that because they're so fragile otherwise. If you've got wax on them, they're at least sealed.
Sure.
Here's some P90s from my old Gold Top.
Nice, yeah, awesome.
Gibson traditionally did not pot pickups, but they certainly put this is paper tape around the edges of these ones.
Does this wax potting? I know we're going back into Eric Johnson territory, but does that affect the tone in any way?
No, not at all. It'll make it playable at loud volumes, because what tends to happen is you get issues with literally the coils vibrating themselves to death, and then you get microphonic feedback. Here's a modern Strat pickup. Look at that. This is one of the Stu Mac Golden Age pickups. They not only put tape around them, but they also put shielding tape. So you can see the fabric tape, hopefully.
Yeah.
And they also put copper tape around them just as a shield. And they potted them. You can see there's a kind of waxy. If I scratch it a little bit, the wax comes off. But that's a nice modern Strat pickup. So what I would do would be to pot them in wax, which takes about 5-10 minutes. In fact, it takes longer to heat up the wax than it does to actually perform the potting. So the next step is literally to attach the wire. I like using this kind of fabric pushback wire.
Cool.
It's very traditional, but it's nice in that it's solid core, so you can twist them together and it just stays.
For this pickup, right? I mean, again, going back to somebody that might want to get into this, what do you think you're in for financially, to just make this one pickup? Let's not count the machine, of course. Let's say you already had a machine. Parts wise, what are you spending typically?
Well, one of these, that's like a sort of half-pound roll of the copper wire. That might cost you $50-$60 now, but you'll get 7 or 8 single coils out of this, or 3 or 4 humbuckers, dual coil PAFs out of that.
Okay.
Because unfortunately copper prices continue to go up. It's just a commodity in this world. The more electronics that we use, the worse copper prices are. But then the flat work and the slugs, $20.
Okay.
Tops. So if you're going to make a whole set of, say, Strat pickups, you could do it for less than $100.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Well under what especially again, a custom set, so to speak, would cost that from one of these shops.
Exactly.
and far under, like, I'm a big PRS fan now. Their pickup shop, I think, starts at what, $400-500 a set. So
Right. Exactly.
kind of
Exactly.
gnarly.
Yeah.
Wow. So this was very cool. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the part of it. As I said, if I could, I'm looking around my room because I can't remember where I put my multimeter. It should be to hand because it's always been to hand, but it's not. I was going to measure it and see what its DC resistance was.
Sure.
But feel free to move on to something else where I locate my multimeter.
Yeah. So I guess the last thing I wanted to talk about, was, and I'm not going to pull up I am not going to pull up the full website from rollingstone.com because it's just, loaded with ads. Even this site's loaded with a ton of ads that I don't really want to see. But Rolling Stone came out with this, they updated their top 100 guitarist list that was done in 2011, and they updated it to be the top 250 greatest guitarists of all time. I looked at the top of their post. This is a real nice text list from chorus.fm. I love chorus.fm because they always talk about a lot of the music that I like. One set of the music I like. So like pop punk or punk rock, alternative music, indie music. It's a great site, written by Jason Tate and a bunch of other great writers. So if you haven't checked it out, go check it out, chorus.fm. They said that, back in 2011, a lot of their their writers were like classic rockers, and that's how the list came to be. I mean, there's so much wrong with this list, and I'll just say a couple of things that I found on it, and then, Simon, have at it. But I mean, if we look at the list already to start, Andy Summers from The Police is at 250, which is just a shame. That's just disgusting. But I wrote a couple guys down that didn't make the list. You brought up to me that Andy Timmons is not on there. We also said Steven Wilson, who is a fantastic guitar player in his own right, but also in Porcupine Tree, not on there. Who else did
Insanity.
we have?
Is Guthrie Govan on there?
So that was my number one glaring omission, that Guthrie Govan is not on the list. Yeah. Guys like Steve Vai and Joe Satriani makes sense, perfect. But to not have Guthrie Govan on there in terms of the greatest guitarist of all time, I mean, I can just close the list at that point and be done with it. Mm-hmm. But then, and guys like Paul Gilbert that we were talking about, not on there. I think he's also a fantastic guitarist. But if you're talking about, getting into like more modern day guitarists, I don't care. I'm a huge hockey fan. Big Devil shirt on today. They got a nice win last night. If you're talking, ESPN did a list of the top 100 greatest hockey players of recent times. That's fine. You'll see, of course, you won't see guys like Wayne Gretzky on there and so on, but you expect to see the people that are making a big impact this year. This is 250 guitarists of all time. Mm-hmm. And you're saying that you're updating the list to be more of the current day, but you don't have a guy on there like Marcus King, great blues guitar player, and you don't have a very hipstery guy like Julian Lage on there, like who's a fantastic jazz guitar player, huge breath of fresh air. So John, hey, look, John from our Discord is on there. He says,
"Hey, John."
He says, as long as Jimmy is number one, all is right in the world. Also, it seems to be the most well-known guitarist rather than the greatest. I mean, I guess I agree with you. But if you go back, let me go back to the list. If you go back to the list, you have Hendrix at 1, Chuck Berry at 2, Jimmy Page at 3, Eddie Van Halen at 4, and then, hey, well, hold on a second. But then you have Joni Mitchell at 9. Like, come on, what are we doing here? And Stevie Ray Vaughan at 20. Like, your buddy David Gilmour at 28, behind people like St. Vincent and James Hetfield and Kirk Hammett got a dual spot. They are both number 23.
That makes a joke of it all.
It's really disgusting. I mean,
Hetfield cannot manipulate a wire pedal like Kirk Hammett can.
Well, then you got who do you have here? Pat Metheny, 157. Let me look for Vi. Vi is at 127.
There was no Halter too,
That's a good question. Let's see. Which that's ridiculous. Nope. You have Satriani at 94. Slash is way down there too. Nuno Betancourt is at 197. Eric Johnson at 205. If you're talking about recent day guitar heroes, Gary Clark Jr. at 209. I mean,
Sounds like I actually qualify for this list. Am I on there? I bet I'm not.
I
That's
tried
rude.
to search. I tried to search, and I didn't think. And like now, listen. John's saying I hate these lists. I hate these lists too. I mean, listen. They're probably accomplishing what they want to do, and us talking about it, of course.
I refuse to click on any of those pages, though. I mean, you're right. It's a conversation starter, and because people ask me all the time, who's your favorite guitarist? It's like, no, I can't do that. I can give you a top 10, but even that changes week by week. So
it's so difficult because, like, we talk about it in the Discord too. I can't compare Stevie Ray Vaughan and my love for Stevie Ray Vaughan with Steve Vai. Like, those two guitarists are so influential in their own right to me for totally different reasons. And I just don't like to put them on the same list. I don't think that makes any sense.
Yeah, agreed. They're incomparable, if that's even a word. It's a word now.
If we're talking about your favorite technical guitarist, like what's the top 2 or 3? Technical, like not like a Govan, right? Because like
I'd say my favorite Govan is Andy Timmons, because he can play absolutely anything in the same way that Guthrie Govan can play absolutely anything. But of the two, because they're so close, Andy Timmons, because he has much nicer facial hair. And that's important.
That's true. But then you also have the guys, I feel like some of them kind of go into the same territory where they're also like a very melodic guitar, like, to have Nuno Betancourt down there, like, yeah, he's a great technical guitarist, but he's also a very, like, you love to sing some of his solos. They're very cool and very melodic. Or like a Vai. Vai, has both, best of both worlds. So yeah, I didn't want to shed too much light on it, but you got Paul Simon at 246. Great songwriter, but why are you on the list? Robbie Krieger of the Doors at 248.
Oh, come on.
Vince Gill is on the list for whatever reason.
Well, to be fair, as much as I despise country music, in all shapes and sizes, Vince Gill is a damn good guitarist. I'll give him that.
But here's the crazy thing, right? Like, I don't understand this. Hold on a second. Like, this is another disgusting part. Keith Urban, 241. Okay?
He's brilliant too.
Yeah, he's real brilliant. But here's the problem, right? Brad Paisley's nowhere on the list. Like, what are we doing here?
Oh, my God.
That doesn't make any sense here.
Yeah, this is rage bait.
Yeah. I feel like Levi Clay would be talking about this list at some point. That's really it. I can't talk about it anymore.
This is modern discourse. Annoy people and get them talking.
It is.
We're just falling foul of that.
I feel like, again,
tube amps suck.
Yeah.
I hate PRS.
I really would love to do at some point. I know we talked about it a little bit in the Discord. I mean, probably we shouldn't do it either, but I always wanted to do like somewhat of like a playoffs, like a Satriani versus Vai, and just kind of like pit guitarists again and see who would reign supreme. And you'd really have to make the case for why one guy is over the other. At the end of the day, though, right? Like, it's so cool to see a list of 250 guitar players, and good that any guitar player, I don't care who's on the list, is getting their due, and that makes me happy. That means we know that people are missing on that list. That means there's at least hundreds and hundreds of guitarists that are great to listen to right now, and you gotta love that. Love that.
Yeah. It's we say it all the time, right? It's never been a better time to be alive and be addicted to guitar of all kinds.
Yeah,
the choices we have, it's ridiculous.
You can't have a guitar is dead sort of vibe with people putting like, these type of lists out. So not that Rolling Stone is everything that it used to be back in the day. Of course not. I don't think any magazine is, right? But it's
Yeah.
kind of cool. Kind of cool to see them doing it either way. Well, I know I asked you last time. I think you were on there on the stream, but before we wrap up, I'm going to ask you again, in the spirit of that list, I guess. Maybe like give me like one or two albums, new, old, that you've been listening to that our audience would be into, that they would like.
The one album I cannot stop listening to right now is Harmony Codex, Stephen Wilson's new one. Mostly because there's some. It's kind of him back to his old prog rocky histrionic form, you could say.
Sure.
But there's some absolutely stunning guitar solos on it. Let me pull up the guy's name because I can never remember it. It's a guy he's worked with before, but
Okay.
he's never featured quite so. Niko Tsonev.
Okay.
Nikotsonev. Absolutely, he's from Bulgaria. He's brilliant, and Stephen Wilson talked about it on that pedal show. He wanted, and you can see him kind of wrestling with it because those guys were like, "Oh man, that particular track sounds so very Pink Floydy," and he was like, "Yeah. Pink Floyd is my favorite band in the world, but I fight against that, musically." To not just repeat Comfortably Numb, which is why he kind of got this guy, because Niko is able to do really, really interesting, but at the same time they sound so familiar, his melodic choices, let's call it that. So, and indeed, Stephen Wilson himself did an absolutely stunning solo on the track What Life Brings. But then the track, the Harmony Codex itself, the titular track, so beautiful, just so beautiful. Adam Holzman's playing keyboards on it.
Cool.
And literally, I haven't been able. It came out 29th of September, so that's 3 weeks now. I've really genuinely listened to nothing else since then because it's so beautiful.
Nice. I got to give it more a couple more spins today. I listened to it a little bit at the beginning when it came out, and then there's just so much stuff coming out. It's just a flood of albums coming out all the time. So
and the other thing I've been doing, you can just see the corner of it there. Actually, that's my new bass. My sort of PJ bass. I've been playing a ton of bass as well.
Cool.
Oddly enough, not necessarily popular for his bass playing, but Sting turns out to be a really good bass player.
Sure.
And he uses this kind of very thumb and finger style. He's not slapping. He's not doing that kind of funk 2-finger thing, but he's sort of this very odd technique for a bass player. But it means you can mute all the time. So I've kind of, for good or bad, I've been ripping off Sting bass lines and playing along to a lot of his stuff, which not ashamed to admit, I love Sting.
Sting or the Police?
Sting.
Okay.
Yeah, his Police stuff is much more aggressive with a pick. Certainly in the earlier days. But I'm working my way backwards, I guess, and I'll end up on the Police. But yeah, I've been just having fun playing bass because it feels like it's good for my timing, and my katana does a really good job. Clean, it's a tiny little bit of grit on the clean sort of model and some compression, and it does a really good job of bass. So I'm happy playing bass right now.
Nice, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, so funny. I was doing a lesson the other day. A friend was getting rid of some gear, and he I bought an E-drum kit for my younger son. He was kind of getting into it. He's like, I really want an amp. Turns out this guy was getting rid of an Alesis amp. I think it has like a 12-inch woofer in there. So we brought that home the other day, and it's just very powerful. There's a fan on the back of the speaker, of the cab. it's loud. We were going outside, make sure too many people couldn't hear it. But
Nice.
talking about bass and loud stuff, man. Oh yeah, it's been I might get kicked out of the house over here, but
Yeah, probably.
it's a good time. It's a good time.
Nice. That's
Well,
great.
this has been cool. Actually, going to be up your way. Probably running around too much to see you or see anything fun like guitars like last time we went to Chicago Music Exchange. But
Yeah.
I think November 5th be around your way.
All right. Nice.
But yeah, maybe I'll do a drive by hello because they always got me running around
Yeah.
over here. But
Well, yeah,
this
obviously
was.
you're welcome to come say hi.
I appreciate it. I will try to make time, and I'll try to get time. But this was super cool, man. Anywhere you want to let people know where to find you, or I know you're in the Discord quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's really it. The Chasing Sound Discord. Come and ask me questions about pickups. I can talk for hours about it. So.
And you know what though? I know you didn't ask to link to it, but if you want to even put it in the comments, the live comments, your website, I still go back to it every once in a while just to check out some of those articles, and I think they're really cool.
My old blog.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I'll put a link to that. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. John's saying, nice seeing you guys. Awesome seeing you. I hope
too,
people
John.
check this out too, on the replay, because this was a lot of fun. That was awesome. I love watching channels like this. There's so many luthiers on YouTube now doing cool stuff like this, and I always find it very relaxing to watch. So this was great.
Awesome. Good. I'll mail you your pickup shortly as soon as
Oh,
I've
thank you.
it.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, thank you, Simon. I'll catch up with you later on, and thank you for doing it. And everyone else, I will we'll talk to you soon.
All right.
All right.
See you guys.
Bye bye.